Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and I can't start today's show without talking about the ISO 10002. You know, some people just love to complain, but companies have a responsibility to care. The International Organization for Standardization, ISO, has revised ISO 10002, the standard for complaint handling. This document enables organizations to foster a customer-focused environment open to feedback, heightening their customer satisfaction. You can get the ISO 10002 standard from the American National Standards Institute, ANSI, the U.S. member body of ISO. Visit ANSI.org/complain to learn more. That's ANSI.org/complain to learn more.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 13 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Scott Talley, the CEO and founder of Network in Action. And Network in Action, a Houston-based networking franchise that has revolutionized the industry with its innovative use of technology, has created a try before you buy program. We're going to talk to Scott about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 13 years now, we've been asking the Franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. Well, we're meeting with Scott Talley, the CEO and founder of Network in Action. And Network in Action, a Houston-based networking franchise that has revolutionized the industry with its innovative use of technology, has created a try-before-you-buy program. Hi, Scott. How are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marty. Congratulations on your 13 years. I bet you have seen it all.
I guess so. It's so funny you say that, though, Scott, because, it was interesting. Before the show, I was saying that I don't think, in almost like 700 shows, we had your concept on the show. So it's very refreshing, you know what I mean, to have something like new and fresh. And I think that's fantastic. Maybe we can kind of even go back to the beginning, Scott. You can talk a little bit about the history behind Network in Action, because I know you're the founder of the company.
Yes, I'm the founder. My wife was the inspiration.
Wow,
so
that's fantastic.
I've owned my own business for about 30 years, and that just means I'm an old guy that nobody wants to hire, right? But
that's great.
She got her real estate license, and I kept telling her, I was in marketing, I said, you can put your little white pearls on, and I'll take pictures, and we can market the heck out of you, but you got to go network. You have to go network, and there's certain industries that's just the way you build your business. And that's usually I would follow that with some criticism of networking.
Right.
So after a couple of weeks of challenging her to find a networking group and being so negative, I thought, that's not really my personality. And what happened, Marty, is I grabbed an iPad one night about 10:30 and started reading reviews of what people thought about networking groups.
Right.
And I found that I wasn't the only one that was a little bit disgruntled.
Yeah.
So we created Network in Action. That's how simple it really was.
And I teach for Purdue University in their global division, Scott. And we talk about the significance of networking all the time. It's really it's from the finding a job perspective for our students. We still say that it's the number one way to get a job. At what point did you know, Scott? When you created the whole concept, was like franchising in the picture, or was it something that kind of just evolved over the course of time?
No, it's a good question. We actually thought from day one that we had a franchisable model. Now, we waited a good year to work on the technology and to work out the kinks, and we were actually building networking groups ourselves. So I was doing that sort of to prove the methodology and the fee structure and those kind of things. And then we decided to franchise, and we just sold one franchise 5 years ago. And we took a step back after that and just worked with that one individual for about a year to work all of those buds out. So we've really only been franchising a total of 4 years, and we already have 58 franchises in 17 states. So,
wow, that's terrific. How does that feel for you, Scott? I always say like the first one's always a big deal, but now that you have like 58 of them, that it must be a wonderful feeling for you.
Marty, I'm a storyteller. Most of us Texans are. Yesterday, I had the occasion to go to one of our members. It was very tragic. His 6-year-old son died of cancer. Oh, and I wanted to go support our member north of Houston, but also wanted to sort of social distance. So this was a large church. Yeah. I just decided to take my seat in the very, very rear. And after a few minutes, I looked over to the right of the church, and there was literally dozens and dozens of Network in Action members who had volunteered to raise money for this family the last 5 months and put a nanny in their home one day a week for about 4 months. And I was moved to tears, obviously, for the 6-year-old and the loss of the family, but I was also moved to tears at the joy of how this community had come together. It was so much more than passing referrals.
Become a family to some extent, hasn't it, Scott? Or like an extended family to your family, hasn't it?
It really is. So I jokingly say that the real inspiration behind this was my big old dysfunctional Irish Catholic family.
That's true. I can relate to that.
Some of the members struggle with relationships, so I figured I'd go start a company that would mess up relationships. Some of them much healthier, I must say.
That's something. That's terrific. How would you describe? When you're meeting with, let's say it's a prospective franchisee, Scott. How do you typically describe Network in Action to a prospective franchisee?
So we try to take the best parts of existing networking groups, which was, obviously building relationships and having it one person per industry. Mm-hmm. And then we looked at the best parts of the technology, which was obviously LinkedIn, and we sort of studied why didn't LinkedIn work as a real networking site. Nowadays they market the fact that they're really a hiring site.
Right.
And the reason it didn't work is because you weren't getting together face to face, to build trust. And on the other hand, you had business owners who had completely vacated or to a large degree vacated the networking space because of the time commitment of a weekly meeting. Right. So it made sense that if we could create some great technology, we could reduce the number of times somebody has to be at a meeting to once a month.
Right.
And by doing that, we brought back business owners to networking. So if you think about it, people are buying blue ribbon food already cooked and being shipped to the home. You know, they're having their grocery shop bar. They're moving into high rises. They're putting out, everybody's pressed for time.
Right.
So we just thought there was a better way to offer networking. It was more time efficient.
I agree, and I think I heard you say this in an interview, Scott. I was watching. I think it was on YouTube. But that gives your people, or your customers anyway, more time to work on the business and not in the business. And I've heard that. We had Michael Gerber on the show several times over the years, and he's a big advocate of that. Is working on the business and not so much in the business. And that's important, isn't it?
Well, it's hard as an entrepreneur. You're starting off. Most of us were undercapitalized, and so we're doing everything. We're wearing 10 hats, and all of a sudden, the guy who thinks he's going to be teach people how to ride horses hasn't been on a horse in years.
And, so true.
That's so true. So we have to stress to our members that the commitment of the hour and a half a month is the minimum amount of commitment you need to make, so that these people will then go become raving fans. And we all know how important that is. I often ask business owners, how many people today will go out of their way to refer your company? And usually it's their mom, and depending on the day of the week, their spouse.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not a lot. And if you join a network and action group overnight, you're going to have 24 to 30 people who go out of their way to refer you, and your business can't help but grow.
I think it's fantastic. How does technology play a role in your business today, Scott? I'm sure it's different from 5 years ago, or when you first started the company anyway. But how do you use technology today?
So we like to say we're a technology company that loves on people. We really have the greatest technology in our space, and no one has ever argued that. So there's an app that the member downloads that allows them to stay connected with the punch of a button during the 30 days that we're not meeting. So that makes it very easy. So how do we use technology? Instead of going to a meeting and standing up every week saying what you do, we use a video that can be accessed from the app. So if a member wants to pass your video to someone else, we make it very easy. We create warm introductions between people that can lead the business. So the technology plays a really key role in what we do. And we didn't do it just to be cute. We did it to be efficient. So a traditional networking meeting, believe it or not, typically has about 55 minutes to an hour of what I call wasted time. We have everyone stand up and give an elevator pitch, and then at the end we have everyone stand up and say if they passed a referral. But if you do away with that because you have the right technology, you actually have an hour extra to network. And I always say, what a novel idea. We would go to a networking meeting and have time to network. The technology allows us to be efficient. And
it's amazing.
I'm 63 years old. I'm 63 and still have 3 kids under 10. So I wanted to have a real high quality of life in terms of time with them. And so we have an app for our franchise owners that as long as they're connected to the internet, they can run their business from the app.
Wow, it's really very efficient. And at your age, Scott, and I'm not that far apart from you. I'm a decade apart from you. But the technology is so fascinating today, right? When you and I go back, we think about 20, 30 years ago, how we did things and how it is today. It kind of blows your mind a little bit, doesn't it?
It totally blows your mind. And I'll tell you what else. For all the negative of the COVID, there's been some things that have sped up our technology or sped up the way we do things that would have never happened had we not been challenged with this horrible virus. But you're absolutely right. I had somebody the other day ask me, honestly, you're going to die, if I had a fax machine.
Yeah.
And I started laughing, like, are you kidding?
Right.
But think about that. That's only about 6 years old.
Exactly.
It's
incredible.
The technology is changing so fast. And that's something I think that as people that are looking at franchising ought to really ask themselves, and I suggest it. If the franchisor, if the brand you're looking at is not like far and away the leader in a technology standpoint in their space, I would keep looking. Because if they're not today, where are they going to be in 5 years, halfway through your franchise agreement?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Scott.
Paramount.
It sure is. And the technology, maybe I could skip because, you did mention, COVID-19. So I know that during COVID-19 you launched this, and I thought this was really interesting, Scott, because again, I've been studying franchising for such a long time now. Is the try before you buy program? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that initiative and why did you implement it, and maybe what success you've seen with it.
Yeah, it was a brilliant stroke of luck. I'm home one evening watching television, which I don't do much of. Especially during COVID, all we had was Shark Tank and The Profit. Right.
That's true.
I'm about Shark Tanked out, and I see a commercial come on for some episode that I wanted to watch on Showtime, and they went on to say, hey, you could try Showtime for 30 days and stop it. And I thought, well, why not? I'll get to see that show. So I signed up for it. And about 15 minutes later, it dawned on me that we were in a very unique time in our country's history where people were really hurting. And how could we help these businesses and do it in a way that could be a win-win? And I thought, well, we have all the technology. We own our technology. So I don't have any, the first piece of software cost $1 million, and after that it's $1, right? So we instituted a program, a trial basis, where a person could come into our Network in Action group at no cost. Now, they would have some obligations to fulfill. It's be a good member. But it gave our franchise owners an opportunity to see what kind of member they were going to be, and they got to experience our technology, our leadership, and the quality of our group. And in the last quarter, we have added over 400 members in the worst economic time in our country's history, about a 10 to 12% growth in each franchise around the country. So it's been a valuable tool for our franchise owners. But the great part is people in this trial are getting referrals. So their business is growing at a time when you would think it would be shrinking.
That's an amazing story, during these times. It's interesting when things like this happen, Scott. Like I've noticed, even over the years, we've had, franchises kind of start like during the Great Recession, and I think sometimes like events like this, it sometimes, I don't want to say it brings the best out of us, but, it makes us maybe think harder or rethink the way we can do things, and I think that's an incredible story, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like it breeds sort of the mother of all invention. And so now I'm kicking myself. Why didn't I think of this 5 years ago? Why didn't we, when a person 3 years ago said, I want to visit your group, and we waited 2 weeks for them to come to a meeting, why didn't we say then, hey, look, let's just go put you in the group and let me experience what kind of member you're going to be. And so now we don't have guests. Guests are not allowed at Network in Action meetings unless they've agreed to sign up and do a few things.
Right.
And then we let them have a month shot at it. So, yeah, who'd have thought, 4 months ago we'd be doing this? Right.
No, I think it's very clever. What else has your organization done, Scott, like in response to COVID-19? Anything else interesting?
Yeah, this was very important. We realized very early on that people had some time on their hands. So, everybody, every company and every organization went to hosting all kinds of Zooms and webinars. Right. But we decided to make the focus of our topics sort of the rolling information that was coming out from the government and the SBA around PPP loans and EIDL. Mm-hmm. And fast forward about 7 weeks, we had been holding a couple of calls a week minimum with experts from the industries, from the SBA and the banks and SBA lenders, and had all these people. And the people polled in our organization, 76% of them said that they got a PPP or an EIDL loan because of what they learned from Network in Action.
Wow!
So consequently, we didn't have a massive exodus of members during the time you think people would be cutting back on marketing, and that has proven to be a game changer for us. So our franchise owners now, the last 4 months, have typically come from the coaching and business consulting background.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that we have to have a business background or a coaching background, but they do bring some added value to our organization.
That's
COVID
interesting.
in a really sort of twisted way, I'm sure it's sad for all people that are hurting, but
it's
really been a blessing.
Yeah, no, it is. I've heard a lot of these stories, over the last, 6 months. It's really amazing how it's led a lot of us to, think outside the box. And maybe you could talk about, maybe there's some success stories that kind of stand out for you over the years, Scott. I'm sure you have a lot of them, but does anything stand out with any particular success story?
What's been interesting is that if we get people whose heart is in the right place and they're willing to follow a model, we've never had a failure. So that's pretty unique too. I guess that all your experience in franchising to have 58 franchises, 16 states, and to grow as fast as we did, and that's very important.
Right.
I mean, we are a relationship, so I don't want to take your family's money and then have to look your wife in the eye and say, "Hey, sorry, we didn't make it." So we're very proud of that, and we do that through a ton of support. But a couple of my favorite stories is a guy who was a big networker. He was involved with another networking organization. He was running around to a bunch of meetings every month, being paid a real small amount of money, about $350. And you fast forward, and in 2018, in our item 19, where we can disclose income, he made $116,000. And last year, he made $141,000 running 3 networking groups. That's so amazing. One of the big hurdles that we have is people look at it and say, "Oh, I couldn't make any money doing networking," and yet our average franchise owner on a $40,000 investment made $141,000 last year. Wow. So it can be very lucrative. We feel like, and I'd like you to help me, but we actually have a contest. If anybody brings us an item 19 on a $40,000 investment with higher average income, we'll give them a $500 gift certificate. No one's brought us one yet.
I can't imagine.
So,
accountants would love to see that, right? I mean, when you see that as far as return on investment, you could draw in a lot of accountants for your franchise.
So to answer your question more specifically, we look for people who are extremely loyal and want to love on people who enjoy relationships, not necessarily somebody that was a great transactional salesperson. Right. And if they're willing to follow a model, we can show them how to do it. It's a lot of fun. It's a real stress-free business. Because you don't have any inventory, you have no real estate, you have no employees, you have no research and development, there's no marketing fees. So it's very, very simple. You just meet people and bring your tribe together and lead them. And
where do the events usually happen, Scott? Like, is it in a hotel or something like that? I mean, where do they typically happen? I'm sure they're different places all the time, but
sure. So the franchise owner gets to choose the time of their meeting. They're going to hold it the same day of the week. So 90% of our meetings around the country are the second week of the month, and they're going to typically be right before what you would call happy hour in a restaurant that has a private room. So if you're typically 3 to 4:30 or 3:30 to 5. That restaurant is empty, and so they're looking for business during that time. So we don't pay for the room, and we'll buy, the owner of the franchise will buy a few appetizers. And so, so the meeting is held, and then what happens when the meeting's over, 60 or 70% of the group traditionally will hang around and have a drink and talk and visit, and that's when the real networking takes place. So a lot of small nuances. My daughter is a big golfer, and she's in college, and I'm always telling her, your greatest round is not going to be like a lightning bolt. It's going to be a bunch of little decisions, a bunch of little things we do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes up the experience with Network in Action. Sure, the technology's nice. But, you got to have great leadership. And our members will tell you that they know that their franchise owner cares about them and is working hard to help them. And because of that, we have about an 82% renewal around the country.
That's amazing. It's very powerful. What, not to make you feel old, Scott, but I mean, again, you've been doing this for a while now. I mean, what advice would you give to our listeners in there to invest in a franchise? Now, that I think that I can never get the numbers straight. I've seen 3,000 different systems, 3,500 different systems, 4,000.
Yes.
It's so much to choose from out there, and we find that in doing this show such a long time, many of our listeners, particularly in the beginning, they have this idea they want to get into franchising, but they don't know where to begin because it's so overwhelming. From everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners that are looking to invest in a franchise?
I love that question. I love the question because, look, at 63, I tell this story often that when we were 30, we were going to all of our friends' weddings, and then all of a sudden we're in baby showers all the time. And at 63, what we have going on in our life is our friends and our associates' parents are dying. They're being put in hospice. They're getting some tragic disease. And you start to recognize just how important the time in your life is and what footprint you're going to leave in this world. It's just part of your evolution as a person, right? So number one, okay, great. We got a $140,000, item 19 on a $40,000 investment. But if you're not going to wake up in the morning and just love life and love what you're going to do,
Right.
all the money in the world doesn't matter. And that's why you're leaving the job. So
Right.
It's pretty simple. Find something you absolutely love.
Yeah.
And if you love the person that's running that organization, all the better. And if you'll follow the model. So anyone looking to open a business today, it's just, the stats don't lie. 9 out of 10 franchises work. And
Right.
the ones that don't are usually because the person doesn't follow the model or they just got in too early on the brand.
Right.
Now, I'm not
Yeah.
knocking early brands. We're an early brand, and we were. So it doesn't mean they
Yeah.
can't be wildly successful. And then the second thing I would say is you get access. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, we've had some of those early brands on the show, Scott,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that a lot of them are no longer in existence. I think that's powerful that you mentioned that, and you guys are way above that curve now, you know what I mean? But you're absolutely right about that. I think this is great advice. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
And also, in all fairness, Orange Theory was young once. They were an emerging brand. They had their
That's
first
true.
and second. They may have 12 or 1,300 now, but it's not to say you discount that, but maybe you do more research.
Right.
You build in some things in the agreement to protect yourself. But at the end of the day, I think you have to absolutely in love with what you're going to do. Bio One is a great franchise. It's a great franchise. And I love the owners, and you can make a lot of money, but you're going to clean up after suicide and stuff like that. It's like, I'm not going to love waking up doing that. So all the money in the world wouldn't make it worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
I get
brand.
it. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so many different interesting concepts out there, but you're right, though. I mean, you really have to get up every day, and as you said, you have to love what you do. So I think it's great advice. As a founder,
you can ask yourself. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
You can ask yourself a couple of questions. Yeah, like for me, what's really important is time with family and ability to support my members and franchises. Mm-hmm. I want to keep growing the company, but I want to have a quality of life. So we were able to just spend 8 weeks in Utah away from the Texas heat because of our technology. And I still run 3 of these groups myself and the franchise brand. So it's very doable. And those are kind of things you have to ask yourself. Some people travel is not important. But Network in Action allows you to leave your business behind for a few weeks, a few times a year and not suffer at all because of our technology.
It's a means to an end. It sounds like what you're saying too, Scott. You know what I mean? Is you ask yourself the question, what do I want this franchise to do for me? And I could tell with you, your family is very important. You know what I mean? So that that family life, that work-life balance seems to be becoming more important to people today. And with Network in Action, it certainly sounds like your franchisees have that ability. You know what I mean? To have, like you said, that quality of life.
Well, so I think you just hit on the last big difference between post-COVID or pre-COVID and where we are today, and that is more and more people don't want to go back to that JOB. Have been laid off and can't go back, and they're looking, okay, what do I want to do with this chapter of my life? And that's another reason why we created the Try Before You Buy franchise model. So I'm going to tell that story real quick. I called my attorney, and I said, look, I don't look good in orange, so keep me out of jail. But I said, I want to offer a try before you buy. And his first words, and he's one of the largest franchise law firms in the world, he said, I don't think you can do that. And I said, figure out how we can do it and call me back. So about 10 days later, I get a call back, and he created the language that allows us to do this legally. But we have what we think is the only try before you buy franchise model. So the way it works is you vet us and we vet you, and we make sure we're on the same page around expectations.
Right.
And we give you a franchise to operate with no money for 12 weeks. And we get to observe you and see how you're going to do, and you get to observe us, and you get to build out the group, and you actually have an opportunity to create sales for that 12-week period and then decide if you want to move forward.
It's powerful. Like I said, I haven't seen it, Scott. And doing it such a long time, I have not seen this. And it really caught my attention when I started, researching your brand. I said I have to have you on the show, because I really thought this was brilliant.
Well, I appreciate it. We want to do our part to help business owners and communities and to help individually join networking action groups, and also to have an individual that might be a good fit for you. Get a chance to try it on without putting any money out during this this difficult time for people. It's worked very well.
Right.
So we train for a week online. You don't have to come to Houston. So it's online supported training, and you have all kind of support in the background. Again, we've never had a failure. And we started 3 people in June, and I'm very happy to say that 2 of them and I have decided to move forward. The third one, it wasn't a fit for. And the 2 that are moving forward are looking at building out 2 more groups this year and have an opportunity to make some really good income.
That's wonderful. As the founder of the company, Scott, I mean, I can ask you, I mean, when you think about Network in Action, where do you see the organization 3 years down the road or 5 years down the road?
When my wife and I started this company, we had sort of a gut feeling that we had a winner, and we wanted to make a component of the franchise that every group does something community-minded once a year.
Right.
So after 10 months, the franchise owner will lead the group in some type of community service project that the whole group wants to get behind. And to answer your question, my wife and I said we wanted something every 8 hours in America going on. 3 times a day, something awesome is going on. But we're not there yet. But in 6 sharp years, we're at every 9 days. So today, every 9 days, some Network in Action franchise owner is leading a group of business people with big hearts.
Right.
And we have stories, that just will blow your mind, helping child abuse, spousal abuse, pets, veterans, all kinds of things. So the group decides on what the project is. But to answer your question, if 5 years from now we have something going on every 8 hours, I'll be the happiest man in the world.
Of course. I think it's wonderful. I mean, I think it's really it's a great model, Scott. I mean, it really does impress me. It seems like it's a feel-good franchise at the end of the day too. I mean, yes, you mentioned that the return on investment, and that's great. But I mean, the ability to bring all these people together and network and build their business. I mean, there's got to be a lot of gratification in that itself, isn't it?
Yeah, in my past business, I spent 30 years trying to avoid you if you were my customer because I was afraid you were mad at me. That's what I was marketing, right? And with this, I get to be intimately involved. I mean, you go to funerals and you go to weddings and you go to kids' soccer games and you're seeing your customers every month, and people just truly become best friends. We had my wife's birthday party in February, and I looked around the house at about 10:30 at night, and I told my wife, who were we hanging around with 4 years ago? Because the home was full of 70 or 80 of our customers who are my best friends. And that's what I love about it the most.
That's amazing. It's really an amazing model, Scott. What's the best way, Scott, for our listeners to get more information on Network in Action? Are there any websites that you'd like to direct them to?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. www.franchise.networkinaction.com. So just put the word franchise.networkinaction.com in front. And that's a great source. My email is scott@networkinaction.com. And my mobile, you're welcome to reach out to me on my mobile. It's 713-417-6152.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't tell you, I've done so many of these interviews. Like, this is almost my 700th interview, Scott, and this has become one of my favorite concepts. So this is really an interesting model. I get it. Everything the way you explained it today is just it's fantastic. And I would already like to invite you back over the next year or so as you continue to grow, because I think Network in Action has a wonderful model.
That sounds great. I really appreciate it. If I can ever help anyone, I love to refer and love to help people find the right business. So if I can be a source for that, by all means, reach out. And if anyone just has any general questions about franchising that don't involve Network in Action, I'll be happy to be an unbiased supporter, because I do think franchising is the way to go. I wish I'd have known about it when I was 28 or 30.
Right.
It's
true. You look back,
the cool part
30
is, the cool part about this, really, I left this out, is you don't have to take my word for it or any other franchisor's word for it. You have the name and phone number of every single franchise in the system.
That's true.
Just do your due diligence, and by calling those people, and really vetting them, you'll find out themes that run through, how does that franchise support you? And that's at the end of the day what it's all about.
That's fantastic. That's great advice. Well, again, it's been a privilege to talk to you today, Scott, and again, I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Okay, thank you so much. You're doing great work. Congratulations on your 13 years. That's not easy.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's been a privilege, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Today's Great Quote in Franchising is being brought to you by
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com. Or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time, we've had some incredible quotes and lessons on our show. And if you go to our About Us page on franchiseinterviews.com, you'll take notice on why we started the podcast and radio show, Franchise Interviews, and it suggests that every business has a story, and that's really been our experience in doing all of these podcasts and radio shows. Is every show we do, you'll notice that every franchisor, every franchisee has an amazing story related to franchising. Today's Great Quote in Franchising podcast comes from Tony Luffy. And Tony Luffy is the Chief Executive Officer of the Marlowe Investment Group. And the Marlowe Investment Group are franchise owners of some very popular franchise systems such as Little Caesars, Sizzler, Jack in the Box, Arby's, Church's Chicken, and most recently Sears Appliance and Hardware stores. And Tony talks about the difference between opportunity and regret. There's another great quote relating to opportunity. And again, we talk a lot about opportunity on our weekly radio show. It's said that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. But let's hear what Tony says about the difference between opportunity and regret.
That we've been able to do on a large scale. It's amazing. If you go back to the beginning, Tony, I mean, were your goals? I mean, today, I mean, you're as large as like 200 plus units. But I mean, back then, I mean, when you go back to the beginning, I mean, was that your goal in the beginning, or was this kind of like just like a natural progression over time?
It's both. Really, when I, in the early 90s, when I finally became a partner, a 10% partner of a small company, I wanted to get to 50 units before I turned 50. So I don't know if that goal was really feasible in my head, but that was the dream. But the goal, the most important part of it was I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to be independent, and I wanted to allow my ability to manage people and work with people to develop into something that was bigger. I didn't know the size, nor did I plan for it to be a number of revenue, whether it's 10 million or 5 million, whatever it was.
Right,
it was really finding a way to make a living and support my family, at the same time satisfying my personal need, which is to be an entrepreneur. And really, once that took place, it was more about the opportunities that came our way. And I always say the difference between opportunity and regret is being ready. So if you're ready, you see the opportunity as an opportunity. Otherwise, you spend a lifetime regretting the fact that you missed the opportunity. So to me, it's about being ready. And I've always worked so hard to make sure that we are ready for whenever that opportunity came our way.
That's fantastic. We have this great quotes in franchising podcast. We're gonna put that quote in there, Tony, if you don't mind. I think that's very powerful. Maybe we could talk a little bit about your company. I mean, the Marlowe Investment Group. I mean,
if you'd like to hear that whole interview with Tony Luffy, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, and you can go to our franchises listed alphabetically page and simply go to the Marlowe Investment Group, and you can hear that whole interview. We have that interview also in our About Us page, and you can go to franchise interviews by category as well and go under the food category, because that's where most of Tony's franchises are located within his portfolio. And lastly, we'd just like to thank everyone for making this podcast such a tremendous success. It's amazing how many people have listened to the podcast over the years, so it's really been wonderful, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
What better place to learn nursing than at one of the top teaching hospitals in the country? St. Luke's School of Nursing, the oldest continuously operating school of nursing in the nation, will hold an open house on Thursday, May 2nd from 6 to 8 p.m. Tour their facility, meet faculty and current students, explore the curriculum and simulation lab, and learn about the admissions and financial aid process. Get your questions answered. Visit sluhn.org/SON to learn more.